3, 2, 1, let's go. Hello there. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Rukia. I'm an award-winning multimedia journalist, and on my channel I share a bit of career, lifestyle and travel content. And over the year that this channel has been made, it has unintentionally turned into a solo travel channel. You might have come across my channel through my travel vlogs, whether that is me exploring Zanzibar, meeting strangers on the streets of Germany, Wallahi, exploring Barcelona, Paris, or traveling to London back and forth. And while you see the vlogs, you see the highlights, there are a lot of things that you don't see that make these travel vlogs and these trips possible, things that don't always translate on camera. Don't worry, the travel vlogs are here to stay. I won't discontinue them. I love making them for you guys. But alongside the travel vlogs, I want to bring in the sit-down segment to add a bit more value. In 2025 alone, I managed to travel to 8 countries. 5 of them were in Europe, but I didn't grow up rich. I come from a middle-class Somali family. I'm a Hijabi Muslim woman whose parents were understandably nervous about the idea of me traveling alone, especially internationally. The reality is there is no secret formula, but there are a few key things that I've picked up along the way that have made it possible for me. And in this video, I'm going to break it all down, from visas to convincing my parents to the financial side of traveling. Hopefully it might help you too, because I get this question asked all the time in my DMs, in my comments. So let's get into it. So let's start with the first one, the most intimidating one: visas. If you're from an African country or a country that is considered a weak passport, please come to the front. You know that applying for a visa can be very challenging, and that's me being humble about it. If you know, you know. Trying to travel internationally comes with so many hurdles when it comes to visas. You need a lot of documentation, applications, lots of paperwork just to make sure that you're able to travel. And it can be incredibly intimidating when you hear a lot of stories about people getting their visas rejected. But I'm here to tell you that it's not impossible. If you plan accordingly, strategically, that you can get your visa and have your first international trip. When it comes to visas, your travel history strongly matters. Once you've established a travel history, it makes it easier for you to continue traveling to other places. For instance, if you're traveling for the first time and you apply for a tourist visa, there are higher chances that you might not get your visa. And this is because, think about it, if you're dealing with someone for the first time on a first time experience, you're going to be more cautious. That's the same thing when it comes to immigration. Immigration system will be more cautious of someone who hasn't traveled before rather than someone who has traveled before and has come back every single time. There's several ways that you can get your first official trip. Look for opportunities that align with your career. Think conferences, fellowships, training programs, or professional events. Sometimes you don't even need to be the speaker or the host. You can just go as a guest or a participant. If the organizers provide an invitation letter and the rest of your documentation is in order, it can significantly strengthen your application. If you're still in school or university, that's actually one of the best times to start. Those international university trips, exchange programs, or academic events, they can be a great way to begin travel history. There's also a page on Instagram that I highly recommend. It's called Scholarships Corner Updates. They regularly post opportunities for young people. Think fellowships, conferences, leadership programs, and many of them are fully funded and legitimate. Opportunities like that can sometimes be your first step into traveling internationally and securing your first visas. Once you've taken 1 or 2 official trips, it becomes much easier to eventually apply for tourist visas. Now this brings me to my second most important point: documentation. Even if you've traveled before, that doesn't always guarantee that you'll automatically get another visa, although it definitely makes the process smoother. I'll give you an example. In 2024, I lived and worked in the UK after winning the BBC Komla Award. So the previous year, in 2025, I naturally wanted to visit again as a tourist. So in June 2025, I assumed that the process would be very straightforward. I made a mistake. I was overconfident. I thought I've already been there and I've been to other countries like Germany, so there's no way they would deny me a visa, right? Wrong. I wasn't thorough with my documentation, and guess what? I did not get a visa at the time. I missed some crucial documents like clear travel itinerary, my accommodation, details of when I was going to return, or properly having an organized paperwork. I learned so much from that rejection because it taught me how to have a clear document when it comes to applying for visas. This is a list that I put together. This is a list that I think you need when you're applying for a visa, which could help you navigate your application. At the end of the day, what visa officers want to see is that you have a strong tie to your home country. Think about things like a job, you have a family, you have responsibilities or a property that you need to get back to, and that you need to have enough financial resources to support you when you're traveling for your trip. Another important thing is you can't suddenly deposit a huge amount of money into your bank account. That is going to look very suspicious. You need to have a traceable income. Think salary or a monthly income that comes into your account. They just want to see if you have enough money to finance your trip. It doesn't mean that you need to have a certain amount. People think that you need to have like $1 million or $2 million. There really isn't a certain amount that you need to have. And the final thing is planning ahead of time. Many visas require time, sometimes interviews. So I usually start researching requirements weeks before my intended travel. And once you approach it in this way, visas stop feeling like this impossible wall and start feeling more like a process that you can prepare for. And preparation really does make the difference. All the trips I made in 2025, I handled all the visas. I did not use any agent, any third party, and I genuinely believe if I did it, you can absolutely do it too. Remember the UK visa that I mentioned earlier that I got a rejection in June 2025? I reapplied in September 2025 and even got a longer visa. And even this year, March 2026, I applied for a much longer visa to the UK and I got it. All this to say that you really can do it if you do preparation, strategize well, have all your documentations and plan in advance. And the last thing I need to say is do not give up. Most people give up after being rejected once or twice. I'll give you an example. One of my best friends got married last year, January 2025. She applied for a visa to go to Poland. That's where her husband was living, but she got rejected twice. And I kept encouraging her to go again, just look at the documents and make sure she tries. And this year, January 2026, she got accepted and she's now reunited living with her husband. All that to say that it can work, and no right now is preparing you for a yes later. So just put in the work, ensure that you have all the paperwork, and trust me, it can work for you too. Now, visas are one thing, but I want to talk about something that I think is an even bigger barrier for a lot of us. Not all barriers are financial or logistical. For many Muslim girls and people from conservative backgrounds or African households, the biggest barrier is actually home. Parents' worry is a real thing. It comes from concerns about safety, reputation, culture, religious values. Before it's even, can I afford this or will I get this visa? It's, will my parents even allow this? And I completely understand because I come from a background similar to that. I'm a hijabi, Somali, Muslim woman, and my parents were, and my mom still is, very protective of me, especially when it comes to traveling alone. I don't think that's a bad thing. I believe it comes from a place of love, but at the same time, it can feel very limiting when you're trying to grow, explore, and experience life outside of what you've always known. For me, this wasn't something that changed overnight. It was something I had to build slowly. And I think this is something we don't talk about enough. You kind of have to train your parents. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way at all. I mean it in the sense, slowly shifting the dynamic from, can I go out with my friends? Can I do this today? Can I all the time? To eventually saying, I'm going out with my friends. I'm going to do this today. I have this planned out. From needing permission for every small thing to showing that you are responsible enough to make certain decisions for yourself. And this is something you start building in your late teens or your early 20s, because the truth is, if you don't start creating independence early, it actually becomes harder to do it when you're older. You're older, the dynamic hasn't changed, so you feel stuck and you feel resentful towards your parents. For me personally, one thing that really helped is that I was always quite honest and responsible growing up. I didn't give my parents reasons to not trust me. So when I started asking for more independence, there already was a foundation that was laid. And even then, there was still fear. And another thing I did very intentionally was keeping my mom involved in my life when it comes to my travels. Every time I travel, I call her, I update her, I send her pictures of what I'm doing, the places I've been. I don't want her to feel like I'm just out in the world doing whatever without her knowing. I want her to feel included, reassured, and at peace. I didn't realize how much that mattered until my sister told me something. She said one day she was sitting next to my mom and she showed her one of my vlogs that came up on her phone. And my mom was like, oh, I've already seen it. She sent it to me a long time ago. And when I heard that, it really stayed with me because it made me realize that these small things that I'm doing, the calls, the updates, they actually build trust over time. They make your parents feel like they're part of your life, not excluded from it. And in some way, they're living vicariously through you because, let's be honest, our parents, our immigrant parents, did not have these opportunities that we have today. And they're happy for you because at the end of the day, you're not trying to fight them. You're trying to bring them along with you, even if it takes some time. And to any girl watching this who feels scared to even start the conversation about traveling or seeing the world, I get it. A lot of young women feel guilty for wanting more freedom. They feel like they're being disobedient or doing something wrong just by asking. But it's okay to negotiate your boundaries. It's okay to want to see the world. It's okay to want independence, and it doesn't have to happen all at once. Small wins build bigger freedom over time. Maybe it starts with going out more with your friends, then traveling locally, and then eventually taking that first international trip. And the reason I'm saying this is because so much life is out there. When you travel, you get to meet yourself in a different way. Who are you when you're alone in a new city? Who are you when no one knows you? What kind of decisions do you make? What do you even like? You see, you start to build your own perspective of the world, your own set of values, and your own confidence. And that's something that no one can take away from you. But at the same time, you also have to accept your parents for who they are. Most of our parents are in their 50s and their 60s. You can't expect them to suddenly change overnight or fully understand your world. So instead of trying to change them, you learn how to navigate them, you reassure them, you move smart about it, you build trust. And if you're a girl watching this feeling like your world is so small right now, like you have to ask for permission for every small thing, you're constantly trying to balance who you are with who you want to become, I want to say that I see you and I understand that feeling, and I promise it won't be like that forever. It might feel frustrating right now, it might feel limiting, heck, it might feel even unfair, but I won't tell you it's not permanent. You just have to start with what you have, where you are, be patient with yourself, be intentional about the life that you're trying to build, because freedom is having the space to figure out who you are or your own terms. And the truth is, there's so much of you that you haven't met, and there's a version of you that exists outside of your comfort zone, outside of your environment, outside of everything you've ever known. There's so much of the world that's waiting to meet you too. So don't give up on that version of yourself, even if it takes time to become her. Now that we've talked about visas, we've talked about parents, let's talk about the part everyone really wants to know. How do you actually afford traveling the world? Looks like from the outside, it can look like you need to be, rich or have one amazing high-paying job that just funds your entire life. And I'm going to be very honest with you. Journalism alone is not that job. I love what I do. It has opened incredible doors for me. But if I relied on my salary alone, I would not have been able to travel the way that I have. And I think that's important to say, especially for anyone who's trying to get into media or journalism or is already in it. And for me, it became less about earning from one place and more about building different streams of income that work together cohesively. That's really what changed everything for me. As you know, right now I work as a journalist. I do moderating and emceeing work. I do content creation, I do voiceover work, and I also do communication strategy and consultancy. And none of this on their own would have given me the lifestyle that I have. But together they've given me the flexibility. And that flexibility is what allows me to travel. And I'll be very real, moderating and emceeing is what really shifted for me. And it started with content creation through visibility, because it wasn't just about the money, it was about the access, those rooms you're in, the people that you meet, the events you're invited to. That's what starts to open doors for you beyond your 9 to 5. Some of the opportunities that I've had to travel have come directly from that. Being invited to speak and moderate events, being flown out to events. If I'm already in a country, why not experience it? I'll extend my stay if I can, when I can. I'll plan content around it. I'll network, I'll meet people I know I can collaborate with and explore work with. I've really learned how to blend work and enjoyment in a way that makes sense for my life. But I also don't want to make it seem like every trip is sponsored or work related, because it's not. Sometimes I've paid for my trips fully, most times actually. And honestly, that's how this whole thing started. It didn't start with Europe, it didn't start with these big opportunities or emceeing, it started locally. I remember when I was like 22, 23, I went to Diana with my best friend, and that was one of the best trips. I remember thinking how big that trip was to me, and it really was big because I started growing from there on. I remember going to Zanzibar and then eventually Paris, Barcelona, London. It wasn't just one big jump, it was a bunch of layers. I think that's the thing that people don't see. They see the Paris vlog, but they don't see the Diani vlog. They see the lifestyle, but it's the years of figuring out things, saying yes, being resilient about all the no's that you get. And when it comes to affording travel, it's not just about money. It's about how you think. It's about asking yourself, what can I build from where I am right now? Maybe you don't have 5 streams of income. I didn't at the time, but it's about working with what you have. Start with one, grow it, add another, and envision the kind of life you're building. Because travel for me was never about seeing nice places. It was about freedom, it was about the exposure, it was about seeing more and learning more and becoming more. Once you start seeing it that way, you start moving differently. And I know a lot of you are curious about this part, how to actually build income outside of your main job. So I'm going to break it down in a different video, inshallah. Not in a vague way, but in a very detailed, practical way, because I don't want this to just look inspiring. I want it to feel possible, because it truly is possible. But I need you to understand it doesn't happen all at once. It takes some time and some building. So that's basically how I've managed to travel the way that I have, step by step. It really wasn't about luck. It wasn't about being rich. It wasn't about having everything figured out or having a privileged background. It was about patience, strategy, and being aware with the choices I make, from learning how to handle visas, from building trust with my parents, to creating multiple ways to earn an income. Every trip I've taken, every place I've seen, it has been a mix of planning, courage, and a whole lot of delusion. I want you to know this. None of this is out of reach. You can start small, you can start today. You don't need to do everything all at once, but every small decision, every tiny step adds up over time. And most importantly, enjoy the journey, because these experiences aren't just about the places that you go. It's about really rediscovering yourself. When you step out of your comfort zone, that's what makes it all worth it. If you've come to the end of the video, I hope you really enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up, like it, give it a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.